Actually, Dr. Phil Switzer actually inspired us to be able to come and start talking to IMRIC and Hebrew University about the possibility of a meaningful collaboration. And from that trip, we had some awesome outcomes, and a lot of work took place over the course of the last year. And now we're back again, but for a much more special purpose, which is to combine 25th anniversary of when I was here in the original tour, and to leave a legacy that will look to the future. So we're still focusing on that original dream of finding a cure for spinal cord injury. Well, I first heard about IMRIC through Dr. Phil Switzer, and he was obviously a real advocate of what's been happening here in Israel with Hebrew University and IMRIC, and he said, Rick, you've got to come. What we're going to do is we're going to raise money with the Canadian Friends of Hebrew University, and it'll help to foster collaboration between Canada and Israel, but I'd like it to go to spinal cord research, and I'd like you to be involved in that. So come with me, and what we'll do is we'll see what exists here and see if there's potential for collaboration. And so I met a number of people from IMRIC, of course, Dr. Levtov, and I've heard all about him in the past, but to meet him and to see his lab and to understand the principles behind IMRIC and what it's doing, and to see the brand new building that's there and all the capacity that's waiting to be filled in over the next period of time. There's great practical work here and great potential for the future, and that was the inspiration to start to forge this more formal agreement of collaboration going forward. When I came here 25 years ago, like with most countries that I traveled through, there were a lot of physical barriers and even attitudinal barriers that prevented people with disabilities from achieving their potential. And coming back again, you can see there's been tremendous progress here in Israel. There's visible signs of wheelchair parking, curb cuts. I'll be meeting with a group of people, representatives of the disabled community this afternoon to identify the levels of progress that have taken place, but also to focus on where they need to go for the future. And when you think about the science, when I was talking about a cure 25 years ago, most of the scientists were kind of like going, I don't know. I'm doing my basic research here and just understanding, the mysteries of the central nervous system, but the idea of a cure. But now, there's a real sense of optimism that we're on the verge of breaking through on something very special. And so what we're doing today is we're laying in the foundations for the future of that explosive growth in the basic science that will be translated into clinical sites and to patients to find out if it works. Some of the new innovations that I hear about all the time are obviously cell replacement technology and therapy. Stem cells are obviously the future of considering how to replace lost cells that have been completely damaged or destroyed after a spinal cord injury. One can stimulate the spinal cord to regrow, and we're finding also that neuroregeneration is the other field of science that is very, very hopeful. They've made great advances in challenging the spinal cord to regrow, but it has to grow across cells, and if the cells have been lost, they need to be replaced. And so those two combinations are huge for the frontier of neuroregeneration and recovery of function for people with spinal cord injury. But also the things that are more practical today that have advanced dramatically are, number one, more people with spinal cord injury are getting more free right after an injury because of the improved medical treatment and care on the site of an injury, as Dr. Dvorak mentioned, the specialized centers of excellence in dealing with spinal cord injury, the diagnostic and imaging technologies, the surgical procedures, the microsurgery, and then the quick rehabilitation afterward. More people are having more recovery after. Even some people are walking away today that would have left them in a wheelchair for the rest of their lives. And that's simply on the advanced treatment and care side. In the laboratory, for the newly injured, there's also great hope to help protect the nervous system, the spinal cord, so it doesn't die after an injury. And I would say in the next 10 years, we're going to see a further increase in more clinical trials to test bed that the spinal cord can be protected in a 2-week period right after injury. And that if we can do that, then we'll see a reduction in permanent paralysis by probably 50% because of the application of hope in the basic science in laboratories being applied into clinical trials. And I guess the most important thing for me is the real hope is that, in the past, a lot of the scientists and the clinicians were working completely in isolation, and there wasn't even that big desire to collaborate. But today the world is a much smaller place. It's truly connected, and there is a desire to collaborate. And the mandate of spinal cord injury, because there's relatively few numbers that happen in each site in each country, it mandates that we collaborate all around the world in order to truly validate our information and our knowledge, and to get the magnified numbers to be able to prove that clinical trials are actually working. And we need people to follow the same ethical framework, use the same outcome measures and language, so that we can truly accelerate progress.
You basically answered all the questions that I have in one form or another.
Wow.
So I have to thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
You've done a great job.
Well,
in general, you did a great job with me.
Well, thank you very much. This 25th anniversary, it is a way to look back and celebrate progress, to recognize champions like Dr. Leftoff, who have been making great advances for the future, but to look to the future and to build the team of global citizens who are working to make a difference. And that's what's so motivating for me on this long ultra marathon of social change. That's for sure. I think we're halfway.
Only halfway?
Only halfway. But halfway is really good, because it means that if you've done it once, you can do it again. Keep going.
Well,